Welcome to the Paradise Paradox. My name's Aaron Battle.
My name is Kurt Robinson.
And we are journalists now.
Media isn't just the sole pursuit of those few nowadays. It's actually something that's in the hand of all of us. So we've moved away from mass media and we're moving towards social media. So it's like a peer-to-peer network, or it will be soon, where you can spread information with people and you can report on things that are happening. Even in real time, you can spread information.
So you have the power. This new media means social media is going to break away the chains of mass media, giving you the freedom to explore this new world of sharing content.
Yep. So we can trust that with the past. So, for example, the case of William Randolph Hearst, he used to be a newspaper mogul known as the father of yellow journalism, and he controlled several newspapers and he used them to manipulate public opinion. Whereas nowadays we're seeing hundreds of thousands of people reporting independently, using their own websites or their Facebook pages and so many other things, their Twitters, to influence the world and to portray the world as they see it.
So let's take this new role and move through airports freely and comfortably in your own time without needing to worry about being attacked by stress and, I guess, these overpowering security, world-saving, terrorist capturing. They didn't capture any terrorists, did they?
No, the TSA never captured any terrorists. I don't think security scanners at the airport capture any terrorists. But yeah, that's an important point too, because this age of independent journalism and video cameras in every pocket means that government bureaucrats have to be a lot more accountable to regular people like you and me, human beings with souls, as opposed to bureaucrats. So this means that we have the power to change the world, and so we have to use that power responsibly and see what kind of new things we can change in the future. We also touch on a new social media site which is called Cinereo, which hasn't been opened yet, but this is a social media site which makes the process of creating content and distributing content over the internet even more horizontal, and it means that journalists can possibly be paid almost immediately, like within hours, for their work. Press like, press subscribe on YouTube and iTunes and Pocket Casts, and go on our website, theparadiseparadox.com, and leave us a comment, tell us a story. And also, we really appreciate all these donations that we've been receiving. Puts our smile on our face when we log into blockchain.info or PayPal and see the money that's been trickling in there. So we really appreciate that, because it's a symbol. It really symbolizes to us that what we're doing is important. So we love it when people give us a little money, and no matter how big or small it is, you can go on donate.theparadiseparadox.com and throw us a few bones there by Bitcoin or altcoins or PayPal.
Whatever you want, share a little love.
Yep. And also, if you're going to shop on Amazon and at the same time you want to show us some support, you can go onto our website, theparadiseparadox.com, and press on Shop Amazon at the top there. And that will mean, it won't mean that you get charged any extra. It's not going to inconvenience you at all, except for the 2 seconds it takes to go to our website. But it does mean that we receive a small percentage as a commission of everything that you buy. So that's another way. If you're enjoying the show, we really appreciate if you do that. We love you guys, and let's get into the show.
This is me diving into the show.
Okay. Great. Today we're talking about journalism and the future of journalism, and how a lot of people are going to be journalists in the future, or how the face of journalism is changing. And I'm not sure who said it first, if it was Jeff Berwick or Doug Casey, but one thing they mentioned is that, like, when you go through the border check or the customs and the TSA in the United States, a lot of the time they give you some trouble, but if you mention that you're a journalist, suddenly they start to back off a little and they don't give you so much heat, which of course they don't want to really attack the attention of hundreds of thousands or possibly millions of people on YouTube watching how terrible they are or reading about it on your blog or anything like that. So Jeff Berwick encouraged people to say, yes, my occupation is journalist, and, say it with a little bit of weight behind it, so maybe they get the message. Yeah.
I'm a journalist now.
Yeah, good.
How was that?
I think you're pretty much there.
I got to work on it, but it is very frustrating going through the airport and needing to write down that little box. I am a... What am I today?
A student of life.
Usually I'm a student. I think I can't think of very many other occupations that I ever put down when I'm going through the airport, because it just opens up for questions. It's like even putting down a student. I'm often asked. They often ask me, "How do you pay for your trip?" or "Why are you traveling?" I guess pretty standard questions, but
I don't know. I don't think they've ever asked me that, actually. I don't remember having to ask even the question about what my occupation is. It's normally I get to I remember in the United States, I arrive at the customs desk and the guy's like, purpose of your trip, like that. Like the guy has been there for like 12 or 14 hours straight. And this, being a bureaucrat, I can't imagine it's a very spiritually fulfilling occupation. So this guy's, if he hasn't been working for 14 hours straight, maybe he's been working for, maybe he's only been working there for 2 weeks, and now he's sold his soul to the devil. So he's unable to express any human emotion, and it comes across as if he's accusing you every time he asks you a question.
Well, I mean, what kind of person are you you must be in survival to want that job, because you can't talk to people. You ask questions, and maybe you're right. Maybe it's just the tone that you seem to develop after sitting there for so many hours. I mean, he might come back from his lunch break. I don't think that would change very much.
What would you like for lunch, sir? Big Mac, small fries. Yeah.
That's my man. Same as yesterday.
That's my boy. Every day the same thing, day in, day out. Yeah. Actually, I do remember last time I was flying from Los Angeles back to Australia. I think it was this time. The TSI guy who checked me, he was actually very personable. He was a nice guy. I think his name was Stephen. And he was like, yeah, we'll just sort you right up here. And, he was going through all my bags and stuff, but he was quite good at it. He made it seem like it wasn't a big deal. And even though they've violated my privacy 6 ways from Sunday, but, of course I prefer to be searched by this guy than anybody else who's ever searched me. But I think the guy was actually a prepper, because I had a roll of dimes that I'd bought, like $10, not dimes, quarters, $10 worth of quarters, because I wanted to go through them to see if there were any silver quarters, like pre-1965 constitutional silver in there, which there weren't. But I mentioned it to him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I know all about that. I got a collection at home." So I think this guy was actually this guy was the most switched on government employee I've ever talked to in my life.
Yeah, he was placed there. He's an agent. Suss you out.
I don't think so. I don't think the TSA is that smart. Yeah.
After our last episode, I think I've been a little paranoid. No, it's all good.
Which episode are you talking about?
Well, let's see the MK Ultra. Since that episode, I've been a little bit. Hey, what am I consuming here, and on whose regards? Is this my choice or?
Right. Okay. I don't know. A TSA agent has never offered me LSD-laced coffee. I'm pretty sure I can testify to that.
So you think? No, it makes me think of the agent that escaped the television show back in late 90s, The Pretender. And every episode he starts with, "Hi, I'm your doctor," or "I'm an accountant," or "I'm your lawyer today." And it's cool because The Pretender, the whole idea was that, this agent that was super equipped and super smart could become anyone he wanted, played by Michael Weiss.
Yep.
So I kind of carry that. I mean, it was a show on TV as a kid, so I like that. So now that I'm a journalist, I'm looking forward to going through the airport to put "I'm a journalist" just to see what happens, because when someone looks at that and says, "Oh, you're a journalist," the whole line of questioning becomes something else. It's different questions. Therefore, I'm a different person. So it's kind of cool.
Right, reality's responding to you in a different way.
Yeah, well, I mean, now it's not like, how you're a student, how do you pay for your trip? It's like, you're a journalist. Which newspaper do you write for? Newspaper. Who writes in newspapers anymore?
Right. Not many people.
I work for the Paradise Corporation.
Yeah. I work from Paradise, Guadalajara.
That's better. I'll run with that.
Yeah. Well, I remember I had a interesting experience coming out of Newcastle Airport, Newcastle, New South Wales. It must have been about 2 years ago now, because at the time I was reading the wacky free man type stuff. Or of course, not all of it's wacky, but the point is asking the questions about what authority these people actually have. And they scanned my bags, and then they wanted to give me a random bomb check, and they showed me the paper, and they said, "Oh, so do you want to? Would you like, or do you give your consent to this random bomb check?" And I was like, "Yes, but first I just need to ask you a few questions. Like, is this voluntary? Like, what are you doing? Like, do I have the option to not do this?" And they just kept evading my questions. Like the woman was like, "Well, if you don't agree to it," and bear in mind they're not actually government employees. They're employed by SMP Security. They're a private security organization, given the charge of this office by the government. And so I asked her, "What's the deal? Like, what happens if I say no?" She said, "Well, if you say no, then we'll ask you to leave." And I said, "Okay, and if I refuse?" And she said, "Well, if we asked you to leave, would you leave?" I said, "Yeah, I would probably leave." And she said, "Well, we don't have to address that question then, do we?" And I was like, "What? Are you serious?" And I said, I started getting pretty angry, but still trying to maintain my cool. She's asking to check my luggage, so it's rather invasive. And she said those magical words, "If you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about." And I was like about to erupt. I said, "Okay, well, I'll just need to see some identification, please. I'll need to see your passport, your driver's license, and please tell me your home address, because if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about, right?" At that stage, he called for a supervisor.
You said that?
I absolutely did say that.
Oh, what a poor security staff. I mean, the most important things are like, when do you clock off?
Well, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, from a security point of view, it's just a job. I mean, she's not doing her dream role. So, I mean, I would maybe looking from an Australian point of view.
Yep.
I think it'd be very interesting to find someone in security that's at an airport doing the bomb checking.
Yes.
Right? Or explosive check.
Yes, random bomb swab. They rub a cotton swab off you and check if it has any explosive material.
I just don't know if these people are passionate about what they're doing. That's what I'm referring to. It's like, she's just ticking boxes.
Yeah, well, she from what I could tell, she was actually pretty new in the position, or at least she hadn't been in the position long enough to deal with the type of questions that I was asking. And I think at this point I was starting to make a scene, like a few people turning around and being like, what is wrong with this guy? Why doesn't he just go along with the bomb swab? And
that's the problem, isn't it?
That's right. The crowd's against me. It's just like at the Lucha Libre. When the crowd's against you, it's really hard to win.
Still haven't been yet. Got to check that out.
So she brought the manager over, and it got to the point where they were just like, I'm sure they weren't deliberately lying to me, but they were definitely saying things which were untrue. Like the woman was saying to me, and I think she assumed that I'd never been in an airport before, because otherwise I wouldn't be asking these questions. But she was saying to me, the reason we ask for your consent is just out of courtesy. We don't actually have to ask for your consent legally. And if you go to Sydney or Melbourne airports, then they won't ask you for your consent. And I was just like, no, that's like, who told you that? Because you have no idea what you're talking about. Like if you search somebody's things without their consent, do you think that's legal? Do you think that's lawful? Like, what are you even thinking?
They're not thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think most people that go through the airport are a little stressed. There's a lot of noise going on. There's like, shoes off, bags on ramps. It's like, and then you think about, what am I supposed to have? There's limits on liquids, and you really, and then you pull laptops out. There's a lot going on.
Yes.
And you're thinking about, where I put my tickets, where's my passport now? I've been through 2 checks already, security, and what time is it? Where am I? There's a lot going on. And then all of a sudden you got someone like, I'm just going to check, can I just swab you down or whatever? I don't know what they say, like, random check.
Just do it quickly, get it out of the way. And this is actually the reason why, if you want to introduce tyranny into a society, the best place to start is with an airport. It's because people are in a rush. They need to get into their plane, and they don't have time to be civilly disobedient. And that's like, you start clamping down that vice of anti-liberty, of tyranny.
I got to budget some more time to flex my freedom.
Yeah, well, at one point I had this plan. Like I thought, what if I go to Melbourne Airport every day or every week, and I try to walk through the security and I keep asking them the questions over and over again. Anyway, I mean, in the end, I agreed to the bomb swab, and they swabbed it, and actually, she swabbed it very thoroughly. So she got me to open my bag and looked right through it and swabbed in several places. So these people are assuming that I'm a terrorist or something just because I don't like strangers going through my things.
I thought it was because you're wearing a turban.
Or a guanjavera, Mexican terrorist.
Or a beret. These are triggers, right?
Actually, that day, you know what I was wearing that day? I was wearing a WikiLeaks jumper. So it has a picture of a toxic hazard symbol over the earth, or something like that. I can't.
They do take advantage of the fact that people are rushing, and
Yes.
they don't have time to really think through what's going on. But I mean, generally, all of us don't really know. We don't appreciate the power that we have. I mean, by putting down or by taking the stance that I'm a journalist, it's like, you guys mess up or say something wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
I will talk about this.
Yeah. That's right, and that's the power that all of us have these days. Even though I don't think everybody has really clicked onto it yet, but of course you can see videos of police brutality, and it's not like Rodney King anymore, where one comes out like the first one in history comes out and everybody's shocked. Now, if you're paying attention to this sort of thing, you can see it happens all the time. Police are constantly overstepping their boundaries, and if they're not actually committing battery on people. They're getting in their faces, which under common law it would more or less be assault if you're standing in an intimidating manner while possessing a deadly weapon. That's if it's not assault, it can get very close. Yeah, people do have this power now to distribute these videos. And when we're at Acapulco, a gentleman speaking by the name of Orion Martin was talking about his app. What it does is when you're pointing your you break out your camera, your phone rather, when you're at a traffic stop or when a police person pulls you over, and then you can contact a lawyer immediately. So if you're in the United States, this is, and you can start talking to the lawyer, and the lawyer will talk to the police officer, so you don't have to. And the service is pretty cheap. I think it's about $60 a year. That's
what he presented. But just be able to record live, and beam back to your cloud to record exactly what's happening, or have the option there to not deal with it and go, here, speak to my legal team.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially what it is. You don't need to deal with it.
Yes.
And and he'll ask all the appropriate questions straight up to completely make sure that the policeman or authority are coming from the right level.
Yes.
Because if they're going to stand over you or talk down to you, obviously they're not going to do that to you. Or, if you have a legal team in your phone, or if you're a journalist, they don't do that to journalists either, I don't think.
Well, yeah, I think in this case, the legal team is going to intimidate them more, but still, that's, you can see some videos where they break out the camera and it's at a traffic stop or about a random breath test or whatever it is. And it seems actually kind of obvious in some of them that the police officer is deliberately being respectful when normally he'd probably be a piece of shit. And he says stuff like, I really, I admire you people who come in here and exercise your First Amendment rights, and I'm glad you are respectful, because some people just shove it in my face or whatever, and it sounds like nonsense. Who really wants to be filmed while they're on a job, but that's something you sign up to these days if you become a police officer, and rightfully so.
Well, that's right.
Yeah. With great power comes great responsibility. If you put in a position like that, then everybody is going to be holding extra scrutiny of you, and that's exactly what is necessary to maintain a free society. It's
a shame to think they might have to start doing their job. Not saying that all policemen are scum, but it's just sad that the majority of videos that seem to come online seem to show a lot of activity that might not be, that isn't quite in accordance with the way they should be behaving.
Yes, and nowadays we can see that it's obviously quite prevalent, whereas in the past people might not have been able to tell that these things were actually going on, that the police was overstepping the boundaries constantly, and they weren't being just respectful to citizens. Yeah.
Well, this new wave of social media and social interaction between you, your friends, your family, and the world really opens up that journalism category to anyone that wants to put on that hat. If you start recording anything, you can start posting it. Whether that's pictures of your dog, or or that's an event you went to, or whether it is authorities playing outside their lines of respected behaviour. And I think it's great. I think it's really good that everyone's able to do that now. Unfortunately, it is bringing in the responsibility where as people, we can police ourselves to a certain extent. If the video's out, not that I'm on board with videos being on the street, videoing everyone doing everything, but it's a good option to have when you need it. When it's there, it's going to protect a lot of people.
Yeah, that's right.
And it goes both ways, so you got nothing to worry about.
Nothing to hide, nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're showering and you leave the curtains open, well, you got nothing to worry about. Nothing to hide. Yeah.
I'm going to leave that. I got nothing.
Okay. Yeah. So you were saying how it's interesting how you can put on these different hats, and it's like you step into this different role, and maybe I guess it can actually affect your thinking too, because it's a sense of identity, and perhaps it reveals to you ways of thinking which you hadn't previously considered.
Yeah, it's really. I think it's important to practice that, because even though you're still you, by giving yourself a different title, it does change the way you're going to perceive, what's going on.
Yeah.
And that might be just in a subtle way, and it might seem a little bit silly, but I'm telling you, when I'm walking through the airport next and I'm a journalist, not a student, then that's going to be really uplifting in a way, because all of a sudden it's like, you know what, it makes you feel bigger than what you are in a way. Like your reach is going to be further, because all of a sudden, I mean, I've had interesting events in my life where I've told the story many times, and it might be over a few beers, or it might be at a family picnic or whatever. But I mean, at that point, you're the reporter reporting on your life, and you're telling someone the story. So of course you're going to act different. And I think if you're in a public place, like an airport, which is extremely, I'm going to say noisy, and I'm talking like all levels.
Yeah.
You're very distracted. So by bringing yourself back to, I'm reporting on what's happening here, that's pretty just enough to focus on, keeping your head together, which I think is important for a lot of people, because how many people you losing stuff, and it's just, airports are a mess.
Yeah, well, the TSA is, employees of the TSA have stolen thousands and thousands of dollars worth of possessions over the years, and they haven't caught one terrorist, not a single one.
No way.
Pretty, yeah, unbelievable, isn't it? A government agency that can't actually do their job. Incredible. I would have never thought of that.
What kind of terrorist catches public transport anyway?
I don't know.
I mean, all the terrorists in movies seem to have private jets, and
okay.
I don't know. Maybe my education on terrorism is a little skewed.
Well, I don't know. I've never heard of a suicide Learjet. I've never heard of a suicide bomber using a Learjet and flying into a building. I've never heard of that.
No, I haven't either.
Okay, all right.
I'm thinking of swordfish now. Even if they did, they would have body doubles and things, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
No, it's a silly topic, but we're talking about personally going through the process of being screened. I mean, I know that there's that we're not terrorists in general. And I speak for all of us, but it's like, why do you have to go through that? And there's some pretty good questions that can be asked. Why do you need to go through the process of being screened like a lab rat?
Yeah. Being
X-rayed front and back, just to board a plane because you want to go visit your family for the holidays. It's crazy.
Yeah, actually, I wonder what kind of technological solutions people will find to get around this, because of course there's things like, I was talking with one of my students the other day about how you can use a VPN. Even if you're in Australia or Mexico and you want to access Netflix, you can use a VPN. So it doesn't matter that your government, like the Italian government, has a trade agreement with the United States where they're not going to release certain TV shows over a certain period. It doesn't matter anymore. You can get around with that with technology. So what if, in a few years, are people just going to say, let's just take off by boat or by flying car and island hop their way to another country? Maybe it just won't matter that governments have borders, because there's no way they can stop the people 3D printing their flying cars in their backyard and taking off to whatever country they want to go to.
Or their biological clone and just torrenting their personality and memories from one body to the next. I don't know what's going to come with all this. But it's like the ultimate stand of government to have, like, you know, their uniforms at the, you know, at the check-in point.
Yeah.
We haven't really changed. We haven't evolved much, have we?
Government hasn't evolved much.
Well, I said we because we are government.
Yeah, get out of my fucking face.
I know you love that.
All right.
Watch us again at Paradise Paradox. Watch us on YouTube, like us on Facebook. Watch us on YouTube, like us on Facebook. Tweet us on Twitter and listen to us on iTunes or Pocket Casts.
Thump. Hit it and quit. So another angle is about the mass media, which, of course, in days past, mass media was very important, and it was much. Yeah, I would say the mass media was much more important than it is today, because independent journalism has been rising for the last few years, you know, since the internet started to get popular. And when the internet did start to get popular, a lot of big newspaper company execs came out and they said, that'll never work. You can't just give anybody the responsibility of publishing news and saying their opinion. That will never be the case. And of course, that's pretty much the case these days. But I think it's still got a lot of room to grow. I mean, the other day I looked at the New York Times. I followed a link from Wikipedia to do some research, and it came up with the paywall on New York Times, and it was like, you can pay 99 cents introductory offer for the first 4 weeks, or pay $3.95 for this article in high quality PDF. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. That's ridiculous. You're living in, like, what age, what year do you think this is that you think you can charge that much? Nobody's buying that, except, I don't know, somebody who's 50 or 60 and still thinks that the New York Times is some kind of respectable news source.
Why are you laughing? I mean, you're talking about journalism, the integrity of solid journalism.
Yeah, and
it's a good brand.
Project Mockingbird CIA infiltration of mass media. That's I think that's what we're talking about. Yeah, no, I don't.
You do need to scratch your head and wonder how far do they go, and
yeah.
You know, and what's left.
Yeah. Well, I remember once my friend Luke, who's an atheist, and he debates with atheists. He debates with people about theology constantly, and of course, a popular line amongst atheists is, "Wait, you believe something just because it was written in a book?" And he sent me this link to a New York Times article, and it was like, if a theist sent something to you and told you it was true, would you believe them? And why would you believe this thing just because it's written in the New York Times? It's a bunch of nonsense. It takes more than that for you to provide evidence. It's like one source of evidence, one very limited source of evidence. One interesting case of journalism is the case of the father of yellow journalism, William Randolph Hearst. And these days, people start to talking about him a bit more because it's relevant to a conversation which is going on all around the world at the moment, which is marijuana decriminalization. Because the thing was, at the time, at Hearst's peak, he controlled about 30 newspapers and then went on to control several magazines as well. So he had this whole chain, and at the time, 30 newspapers was a lot, apparently. So he was a very powerful media figure. And so you can see him, characters based on him, portrayed in movies such as Citizen Kane. Of course, there's also a character based on him in Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead, Gail Wynand, the respected and hated figure of newspapers in the fountainhead. And the thing was, circumstantially, Hearst owned a lot of paper mills and a lot of forests where they were growing wood and a lot of trees. And so the thing was, it was in his interest to remove hemp from the economy, because if he could remove hemp from the legitimate economy, from the white market, then that would mean people would have to make paper out of his trees instead of out of hemp paper, which is far superior. So he started this campaign saying sometimes very racist things which would appear rather nasty to us today, talking about how Mexicans were all coming across the border and smoking marijuana, and perhaps they were raping women, or whatever outlandish claim that he thought they could get away with, they would make. And so people started saying, we need to ban this marijuana. Again, I guess it still happens today. People are unconscious about when they're being manipulated by the media. So they took to the streets and started protesting, or whatever type of action they took. So when Congress decided to pass this law banning marijuana, it went through. The thing was, there were a lot of hemp farmers, and the hemp farmers had a big lobby and a big business interest as well. But the problem was, none of them knew that marijuana actually meant hemp in this case, with this broad definition of the word. Because nobody ever heard the word marijuana before. Marijuana originally apparently was a Mexican-Spanish slang word for a kind of wild tobacco. And so they banned marijuana, and not realizing it, they banned hemp along with it, making Hearst a rich man, a very rich man, and sending lots of hemp farmers and marijuana farmers out of business.
So what do you draw from this? There shouldn't be such a connection between politics and control and capital free markets.
Well, it's not. You're saying free markets. Well, this had nothing to do with free markets. This was about control, about government control, government affecting the market. So it's restricting the market. And so we compare this case to what's happening today with the debate on marijuana legislation, and you can see people are coming out and saying, either people say it's not harmful, or there's been no deaths. It's no more harmful. It's actually significantly less harmful than cigarettes or alcohol. Or some people even say it's actually beneficial. It has several benefits. I mean, of course, it can be used for recreation, but of course, it's got some medicinal purposes as well, and in some cases, a lot of medicinal use.
I think this knowledge is starting to get pretty widely accepted. Like the collective community knows this.
Yes.
But it's just like, it's there's almost like a laziness to change it back or to modify that, isn't there? Because I don't think people care whether people smoke weed or not.
Yeah, nobody really cares. Well, at least, in Australia, in Adelaide, you can just smoke weed whenever and the police won't arrest you. Even though the law is on the books, they just don't care, because they're like, this is just a waste of our time. We don't really care about stopping people smoking weed.
Yeah, not enough a reason to move to Adelaide.
Yeah, you need a big reason for that. But no traffic jams, because there's no people. But that's something, but still not enough. Yep. So the thing is, so this is in stark contrast to back then when Hearst was alive and printing all these newspapers and he had all this power. Today we have hundreds, if not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of independent media outlets on the internet reporting on this and saying, these are the facts about marijuana. Actually, when I first, about 15 years ago, I started looking up the facts about marijuana on the internet, and I thought all these marijuana advocates must be actually like they're saying anything they can to get it legalized. Like they're saying it's not harmful and all this stuff. And after time, it turned out they were true. Whereas when I went to high school, they told me that the reason that these drugs were banned because there was a high chance of overdose, which now it just seems laughable. Nobody's going to believe that shit.
I didn't even think I got that far along the line. I just knew drugs were bad. Full stop. That was it. That was my knowledge. Just don't go there. You will get sick and you will die. You'd be a wasted person.
Yeah.
That was the gist of it. I mean, I didn't even think to look into it until much later.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't. Well, I mean, I'm not sure. There's different triggers why people want to start investigating anything on their own accord. It's because they have some kind of there's some kind of feeling and some kind of personal responsibility where they want to find an answer. They want to know, is this really happening? Because for the longest time, we're trained to believe what we hear. So whatever's on the news, whatever's on TV and the newspaper, you just accept it as the truth. And now it's almost like mass media only have control over people that are too lazy or don't have that drive for the truth.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Now that's why people are slowly moving away from that mass media.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of that lyric that on Juice Rap News where Hugo raps, "Ignorance is a choice in the age of the internet. The only question remains if the people are interested." And those are some powerful words. But I do think more and more people are interested. More and more people, I see them pop up on Facebook sometimes, people from my high school who I never thought would be interested in seeking out information. But now they come up and they say these things which make me think, hey, this guy is looking stuff up. This guy is trying to find out what's really going on in the world.
It gives you hope, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel good about it. I mean, I've got an idea of what's kind of audience we would have. But, there's a certain type of person that wants to look for alternative media.
Yeah.
And, I can only pat them on the back and congratulate them for setting themselves free. Because, being told what to watch and at what hour and all that, that's just... I mean, of course, there's different levels of media now where, like Netflix, for example, where you can choose to watch, what you want when you want, I guess to a certain extent. And there's more choice. But it's just that. Why is there more choice? And then you select, you've got this selected choice that you can pick from. It's like when you got the internet, it's completely open. It's whatever you want. But we'll get there.
Well, it kind of blows my mind when back in Melbourne, I was living in the share house, and sometimes my housemates would just sit in front of the TV for 3 or 4 or 5 hours a night. And I was like, what are you thinking? Of course, I don't know if I'm in a place to criticize because I sit in front of the computer for hours and hours doing nothing at all. But
no, it's
so
slightly...
maybe it's the pot calling the kettle black there.
I think it's somewhat different.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. How many channels do they have?
I don't know. How many channels are there in Australia now? They opened it up. There's more than 3 that we had when I was a kid.
I remember there being about 8. I've really got no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
But a handful of what we had. But I mean, someone sitting in front of TV, even if it's, I don't care if you got like your pay TV or your Foxtel or whatever, free to wear. I got no idea. Whatever. Still having a selected amount of channels is some kind of pretend choice. Like you got numbers and up or down. I got a full keyboard and a window that lets me go to any universe I want.
Yeah, and it's really amazing how much the world has changed in just the last 15 years. That we have all that information now, and it's not a secret, and it's not just something for nerds. It's something for everybody. And it's accessible and easy, and it's fast, and it's like this state of anarchy on the internet. Like nobody can tell you what you can publish, more or less. I mean, some sites open up I remember there used to be this site I would go on where if something got taken down by a government, you could go on this site and they would publish it. And now you have things like LiveLeak and WikiLeaks, of course, to store this confidential information or banned information. And like, there's no way the information can be controlled. It's like what the kind of hacker rhetoric that I used to hear years ago when we were looking at bulletin boards. It would say, information wants to be free. And it seems to be true. It seems to be truer and truer. Like, it's information. I mean, it's not, information doesn't have agency. Technically, it's not a rational actor, but it's still like the flow, the way it flows through minds, the way memes flow through minds. It wants to be free.
Yeah, it's like a virus.
Yeah,
it will attach where it wants to.
Yeah,
at will.
Yeah.
It's really quite good, and it's exciting that this social media can let you find new circles, irrespective of your geographical location. Like that's something we're talking about. Like this technology of sharing this virus of information jumps languages, it jumps borders, it jumps time, because you can. Well, we're going to post this podcast up, and it's going to be there hopefully for as long as anybody wants to watch it. It'll be there. Yeah. And so it's kind of a time travel of information.
Yeah, that blows my mind too, because this is like the first generation where we can put something up on the internet. Like you can, watch my music rap videos that I made in my bedroom. Like 20, 30, 40 years later, like my great-grandchildren will switch that on and be like, oh, check out great-granddad's dorky so raps cool. Videos. But how crazy is that? Like, how much do you know about your great-grandparents? And like, you might have seen photos, or maybe you knew them when you were young. But now, and going into the future, you can know them personally like that, because you can see their record, and it's open for everybody.
That's going to be very interesting, because we lose track of time when you start going back a few generations. Like the difference between thinking about my grandfather or my great-grandfather, it's like, especially when you start thinking at what was their childhood like, it just all gets jumbled together.
Yeah.
Like, as in, as soon as you go, like, Dad lived in the old days, his dad, and it's like those years were so long ago that you just put it all together. Like, they all had to share the same technology. Yeah. But I mean, we're going to be able to document that and that's going to be inherent in the technology that we're using now. So it's going to be like, I got to watch Granddad in color. It's like, what the hell does that mean? In color? You mean like in real, or like in person, or in hologram?
Was it a hologram? You couldn't interact with this recreated artificial intelligence identity? Yeah. What do you mean?
Kids these days, huh?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not hard for us to try and imagine. Like, I can imagine that. Like, that's going to be a possibility, but I'm sure people like, you guys are crazy. Maybe so. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, like right now we're creating this historical record. This is like a time capsule. So that's another power of modern journalism.
But from the other way around, we're also creating our own channels. Like we were discussing YouTube earlier, and I like how, it's like, I got 5 minutes with nothing to do. That never happens. I would jump on YouTube, and there's a whole lot of recommended videos, and it's like, okay, I might find something interesting I can fit into 2 or 5 minutes here. And it's cool because there's always a handful of something related to what I was watching that week, or in the last couple hours or whatever. But it's going to come to a point where you're going to have like the best of, and there's going to be like a 5-minute section of a documentary. It's going to be there allocated with a manufactured name, like specifically designed for you.
Oh,
okay. Your own designed, like
personalized content.
What like, yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, some kind of intelligent bot of YouTube is going to be generating a channel directly for you based on what you've been watching anyway. which is really cool.
Yeah, so it's gonna it'll find these different pieces of different documentaries and splice them together into a 10-minute movie that you can watch and
just an idea, but I don't see why it'd be that hard. It's like it's going to create a preview of what you could possibly watch in the next 14 hours. It's like, here's 15 documentaries that you might be interested in. I made you a preview.
Of all of them at once, downloaded directly into your brain.
Well, I would hope to upgrade my IQ by then as well to be able to absorb all that. But there's too much information. Like we're getting left behind as technological robots. But I think our consciousness could handle it.
Yeah.
Got to meditate. But I grabbed some information from a few videos I was watching just on how social media is going to change the way our brains work. And it's interesting that there's a few phenomena that's already happening, like this phantom vibration syndrome. Have you heard of that?
Yes. Like when you have your mobile phone in your pocket, or even if you don't have it in your pocket, but you feel some sensation in your leg or your chest, and you interpret it as being the vibration of your phone, but it's actually nothing.
It's like, no phone, but why am I feeling this vibration?
Yep.
That's supposed to be like this, like an after effect of our need or our addiction to wanting to always keep checking. What's the new latest thing on what's the latest little red beep beep on my Facebook? Or
so some people compare it to like phantom limb syndrome, where like if somebody loses their leg, they can still feel their leg afterwards. And some other people just say, well, it's just a twitch. And because you're used to having your phone in that pocket, then you interpret it as being your phone.
So the next question is like, well, if I'm getting this without even posting anything, how many tweets can I tweet?
by your phantom phone. Okay.
Well, it's like if your body needs that need to check something that is creating these kind of phantom vibrations, then maybe you should be phantom in an output as well, not just an input. So I mean, okay, how many times do you think I should write about that, or that's an interesting topic, or I should tweet that? And it's like, well, I don't have internet connection, so I guess the world misses out.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. That's what a notepad is for. Old school technology making a comeback.
Future.
They have a name for that, the poor man's Palm Pilot or something, where you get a piece of paper and you clip them together and you have a pencil.
Yeah, I might clip
the poor man's PDA.
Might clip some paper to my iPhone.
Yeah, it'll improve its functionality. So about social media, of course, there's this new site which hasn't launched yet. It's called Cinereo. And it seems very interesting because it's working on this decentralized model. And it means that when you promote something on the site, so say you put a few dollars on there and you want to promote a link to your website, so because you just released some new content. So you put a few dollars on there to promote it. Everybody who watches your ad is going to receive a small piece of those few dollars that you just put on there, so a couple of cents or maybe tenths of a cent. And then maybe they'll say, actually, this is really cool. So I will actually put some money back on it so other people see it as well and boost the signal. And that means that the person who created the content or originally posted the content will then receive a percentage of those funds that other people are putting on it. And this is really huge. I mean, it seems like a subtle thing. It seems like maybe it's just like tsu.com or there's that social media website that pays you that nobody signed up to. But it is something new and it is something different. And I don't know if Cinereo is going to succeed, but I know this is like the future of social media, because this means that content creators can get paid, and it's not like a long process where it means you have to build a blog, build a reputation. No, it's not really like that anymore. It's like instantaneous. If you make something good, you can put it on there, other people will promote it for you, and you're getting paid. Like within hours, you're starting to generate an income by making good stuff. And this brings us into this other level of social media and this other level of information. It's not like we need to like rely on web portals like they did in the old days of the World Wide Web. We don't need to rely on who pays the most money to Facebook or Google AdSense or whatever it is. Google AdWords rather. It's like everybody's more or less on this horizontal level, and there's no barriers to entry to promoting something. It's just a matter of putting a few dollars on there and trying to make some money.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing you said was boost the signal, because it is all horizontal. So there's no one that's got any more control than anyone else.
That's right. Yeah. So it's not like you can be banned or censored on there either. Yeah.
The control is in your hands to boost it yourself.
Yep.
Or receive income and then put it back towards spreading your word freely.
Yeah.
Cool.
So this is something that's going to definitely play into the future of journalism in some form, because this means news can get out so much quicker, reach so many more people, and the better the news is. And I guess this requires some level of responsibility too, because if you read an article which is very sensational, maybe that's going to get promoted a lot, but we need to, of course, have that responsibility to research the sources, and that's something that's just, well, it's always been important, but it's only in these days that it's become so obvious how important it is, because these cases like with that guy on CNN who got caught lying about military stuff, Bryant, I forget his name, it's probably not important, but there's these cases where media outlets are shown to be manipulative or lying or misrepresenting the facts. And nowadays we know that's a problem, and we can address that better now, and that's something that's going to come into play with this new system as well.
It makes me think of that message from our good friend Terence McKenna.
Yeah.
How he says, what's important is your real life and your friends, without repeating him. What interests you is important, and that should be your world, and not buying into all this bullshit that that mass media is going to throw at you or down your throat.
Right.
So,
because it's in other people's interests to try to make you believe things. The more you believe in their belief system, the more control they have over you. And I think these days it's becoming more and more easy to be an independent, free-thinking, and beautiful individual. So, my name is Kurt Robinson.
my name's Aaron Battle.
We have been the Paradise Paradox. Press like on YouTube, press subscribe on YouTube, leave us a comment on YouTube, tell us if you started a channel or you want to become an independent journalist or start a podcast or something like that.
Like us.
Yep. And every time you press share on a Paradise Paradox link, the world explodes and turns everybody on Earth into super hyper journalists. That's a actual provable fact. And also, press subscribe on iTunes. Yeah, it's real. Press subscribe on iTunes. Press subscribe on Pocket Casts. And follow us on Twitter. I'm at Trouble Bubble.
At Battle AZ.
Great. All right. See you next time.
Peace.
Press like on YouTube. Press like on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and Pocket Casts. Follow us on Twitter at BattleAZ, at Trouble Bubble, and show your support at donate.theparadiseparadox.com.